Good morning, welcome. And those that we have not spoken, we have not seen or met each other, Happy New Year. I think we will continue to say compliments and Happy New Year until the end of January. I was saying to somebody that once you get your salary for the year, the first salary for the year in January, we stop saying compliments because now you are sorted. Because some of these compliments is because you are broke from a holiday. You are saying compliments, you know, with that begging eye of saying, can I borrow something for school fees? And but welcome, and thank you very much for being here. Our esteemed colleagues in the media and our stakeholders. It's important that we continuously engage with our stakeholders as well, which include the media and representatives of various organizations, because we are the parliament of the people.
Recording in progress.
We have invited you. We are continuing with the cluster briefings on weekly basis to deepen as part of the priority for the 7th Parliament, which came into office after the national and provincial elections last year. We are continuing to deepen the constitutional principles and obligations and functions of Parliament of openness, of transparency, and of course of public involvement on an ongoing basis. And these cluster briefings on weekly basis is essentially part of that. And we are honored to have you in our midst. This is a second cluster briefing for the year 2025, and you are going to get briefings from the Peace and Security Cluster Chairpersons. They are in no particular order. Mr. Xola Nqola, who is the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitutional Development. Don't worry if you don't know which one is here amongst them. I'm going to call them one by one when it's time for them to give opening statements. And then you will also be addressed by the Honorable Chairperson of Correctional Services, Ms. Mosa Ramolobeng. You are also going to get a briefing from the Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Police, Honorable Ian Cameron. And then, of course, the Honorable Chairperson for the Portfolio Committee of Home Affairs, Honorable Chairperson Mosa Chabane. I hope that the reason why it's almost a full house today, Honorable Chabane, is not because you are going to have a desk outside to deal with the issues of IDs and so on and so forth. But thank you very much for the chairpersons for being here. They traveled all the way from their provinces because Parliament, the committee program has not started yet. So we are grateful for your presence here. So we are going to invite the chairpersons one by one. If somebody can maybe close that door to avoid or maybe assist with the noise outside. We are going to invite the chairpersons each to come and make a presentation, a brief presentation, and thereafter we will then deal with the questions. So the format of the Q&A session will be that we will start with the members of the media and to get the questions from them. And then once we have dealt with them, we will get comments or any questions from the stakeholders present. Thank you very much. So I'm going to invite the Honorable Chairperson, Mr. Nqola, to come and Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mutapo. Good morning and compliments to everyone. Please allow us to send our deepest condolences to the de Kock family following the untimely passing of the Deputy National Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate de Kock, who we regard as an outstanding public servant who has dedicated his life to serving the people of South Africa. Given that the transformation of state legal services remains a key strategic outcome of the Department of Justice, the committee will also be conducting oversight at the Office of the State Attorney and meet with the Solicitor General, who is now the acting Solicitor General, but the department has concluded the recruitment process. The Office of the State Attorney has been beset by serious challenges which include corruption, resistance to change relating to the implementation of policies, a lack of capacity, inadequate resources, infrastructure, technology, and funding. Legal practitioners have also complained about payment by the Office of the State Attorney beyond the target of 30 days from the receipt of the invoices. As part of the overall transformation of the legal profession, the committee will also be monitoring the implementation of the Legal Sector Code, which aims to accelerate the transformation of the legal sector. We all will recall that some anti-transformation forces in the country have taken the Legal Sector Code to court. So we call upon both the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition and the Department of Justice to defend it with all they have. The committee has been informed that the department is in the process of establishing the Legal Sector Charter Council. The council will play a pivotal role in overseeing the legal profession's compliance with the Legal Sector Code. Among its responsibilities include monitoring implementation, providing guidance and clarification, and supporting stakeholders in the effective interpretation of the code. The committee will continue to monitor progress closely in the year ahead. Strengthening the fight against gender-based violence and femicide. The committee noted in 2023-2024 that the National Prosecuting Authority exceeded its target for the conviction of sexual offenses to 72.6%. And in another positive development, the number of Xola care centers increased to 64 through the support of business. However, the NPA reports that limited capacity continued to hamper their impact. In the past year, what we usually call budget cuts of austerity measures prevented the recruitment, which hindered the expansion of the Xola care center footprint. A lack of GBV-specific budgets for key stakeholders, especially the Department of Health, further impedes expansion. Notably, much work is being done in collaboration with the South African Police Service on the DNA backlog project, which appears to be paying dividend. In another welcome development, the NPA reported on the launch of the Serial Rapist Prioritization Initiative. This is a collaboration between the Sexual Offences and Community Affairs Unit and the Serial and Electronic Crime Investigations Unit of the SAPS Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences Unit. The top 10 serial rapists per province have been identified, and through the initiative, the NPA will ensure that the matters are enrolled, trials are prioritized, and convictions are secured. The committee will continue to monitor the implementation of the critical GBV legislation and will be receiving a briefing in the first term from the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development and others on the annual report on the implementation of the Criminal Law, Sexual Offences and Related Matters Amendment Act. You'll remember that the 6th Parliament has passed 3 gender-based bills, which have been ultimately been assented by the President. Modernization of the integrated justice system. The committee has noted the Auditor General's observation that there continues to be a significant expenditure on the integrated justice system, but a lack of throughput and delivery of projects across the program. The AG has also highlighted the link between delayed projects for the modernization of the criminal justice system and worsening case backlogs. This delay is the realization of an integrated and modernized criminal justice system across the cluster, contributing to reliance on manual systems, worsening case backlogs, and difficulties in retrieving information required for investigations. The lack of progress is attributed to matters related to process and governance. In particular, the delays experienced are attributed to delays in the State Information Agency's procurement process. Some will recall that we had a meeting where we concluded that we are going to have a joint meeting with the Portfolio Committee on Communications with SETA so that we are able to unlock what has been hindering progress as it relates to the integrated justice system. The committee has prioritized oversight of the IJS program in 2025, and it intends to meet with the department and SETA to gain a fuller understanding of the project and how challenges may be overcome. The committee, towards the end of 2024, has taken a decision that part of its prioritization when it conducts its oversight program will be firstly going to the IJS hub that is situated in Gauteng, so that we better understand what are the impediments that are impeding the progress in that regard. The strengthening and capacitation of the Chapter 9 institutions would say that firstly, we fully support the independence of all the Chapter 9 institutions and the efficiency and the thorough work that they ought to undergo. But all that must be done within the parameters of the Constitution and the law. We are in the process of filling a vacancy of the Deputy Public Protector. I'm sure some would recall that we recently held interviews of 8 candidates for the position of the Deputy Public Protector. We are in the process of filling a vacancy in the South African Human Rights Commission and a vacancy of the Deputy Chairperson of the Commission. Some will also recall that we have had interviews to that regard, and sooner we would have filled that vacancy. On the planned oversight, the committee knows the challenges concerning the dilapidated and aging court infrastructure. The committee is aware that there are factors falling outside the Department of Justice control. In particular, is the reliance on other departments and agencies, especially the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, which has proven to be problematic. The committee has flagged the challenges with the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure and poor court maintenance as an oversight priority, and part of oversight during the first term will be conducting oversight visits to various courts. We had a meeting where we were briefed by the department on court infrastructure maintenance plan, where we also got briefed that some of the problems relate to slow processes within DPWI. So we have set up a joint meeting as well with DPWI to deal with this matter, particularly some of the issues relating to what they call the minor capital projects, whose threshold only is something not more than R1 million. So we're advocating that at least that threshold, so that the department is able to deal with issues of minor capital projects like renovations, leaks in courtrooms and stuff. So we're saying the threshold must at least be increased to be 5 million instead of 1 million. Because really, as time goes, there's nothing much we can do with the 1 million rands. Part of what is going to be our priority in the oversight program is the Master's Office, which has proven throughout years to be experiencing some major problems. You would recall that last year we had about 14 employees or officials of the Master's Office that were suspended or fired or dismissed due to some problematic issues that besieged the Master's Office. So part of our priorities in our oversight program will be the Master's Office and also the State Attorney and the court infrastructure the Human Rights Commission. Some of you would have heard from the media of complaints from staff to the commissions, from commissions to the staff, and like that. So we have had numerous meetings already with the South African Human Rights Commission, where we're trying to stabilize the commission so that it best perform its duties efficiently. I thank you.
Thank you, very Honorable Chairperson Nqola. Those colleagues are the issues of justice and constitutional development that Parliament is dealing with. I take this opportunity to invite the Honorable Chairperson of Correctional Services, Ms. Ramolobeng.
Good morning to all media houses, all stakeholders that are present here. When one came in, I was a bit puzzled. I had to ask Motapo, are we in a meeting or something? Because I'm not used to briefings being a full house, but we do appreciate and thank you for coming through to listen to us expanding on how would see 2025 progressing and how we'll hold departments accountable. My name is Anthea Ramolobeng. I'm the Portfolio Committee Chair of Correctional Services. Let me firstly congratulate the Department of Correctional Services for having achieved a pass rate of 96.2% of the matric results of all inmates that were doing matric in our facilities. The overcrowding in correctional centers. Overcrowding is a problem of the whole peace and security cluster. It's not a correctional service matter only. Currently, the department houses around 156,000 of inmates with only 474 approved bed spaces. And this, it's a stats that we've done 2023-2024 financial year. So why yet does the Portfolio Committee to receive an updated number? It should be, or it could be more than this number I've just indicated on. And this contributes to an overcrowding rate of 48% in the previous financial year. The department is also responsible for 55,776 remand detainees, which contributes 36% of the total prison population. This stats as well could be more, as I've indicated. It's for the 2023-2024 financial year. We still need to be given an updated stats of the remand detainees, including the inmate population in our facilities. A number of issues which contributes to this problem of overcrowding includes inmates who have been given bail but are unable to pay. We've seen this with the Colesbeck Correctional Facility, where we had a number of inmates who would have received bail of less than 500 rands or bail of less than 1,000 rands, but still could not be able to manage to pay that bail. Vis-a-vis what the department is paying for each inmate being in a facility, it's something that requires us to ponder on. Remand detainees who have been detained without the option of bail as well. We have an influx of those, of inmates who would have been taken to correctional facilities, but they are yet to receive bail. And this would be years, some of them. Court disapproval on the Section 63A application due to the nature of the crime committed or would be previous criminal records and the involvement in gangs or criminal syndicates in crimes. States patients who should be in mental institutions but are instead incarcerated in correctional centers. This is a matter that we've been in engagement with the Department of Health, including the Portfolio Committee of Health. So it's a matter that as the Portfolio Committee, we are going to prioritize to make sure that there is bilaterals between the two departments, including the two portfolio committees, to try and find mitigation of mental health patients being in correctional facilities instead of hospitals. The huge number of foreign nationals in our facilities, this is a dire concern that the department is facing in centers. How do the department address the issue of overcrowding? The department is implementing an 8-pronged strategy that includes, amongst others, managing levels of awaiting trials, detainees through the IGS case management task team and intersectoral committee on child justice, managing levels of sentenced offenders by improving the use of community correction supervision, release of parole and transfer between correctional centers to establish some degree of evenness and overcrowding in all our centers, encouraging debate in South Africans about the value of incarceration as a sentence, and encouraging appropriate sentences that is focused more on rehabilitation. On self-sufficiency and offender labor, in response to the continuing budget cuts, the Department of Correctional Services is implementing its self-sufficiency and sustainability framework. This framework has allowed the department to demonstrate innovative revenue generation and self-sustainability while contributing to the local economic development using its own resources and offender labor. In addition, the framework has made a positive contribution to the department's mandate on rehabilitating offenders in their care. The portfolio committee is pleased with the outcomes of this initiative and has witnessed during our oversight, which we had in Gauteng, to various correctional centers. The 2023-24 financial year marked the 3rd year of the implementation of the self-sufficiency and sustainability framework, which aims to increase work opportunities for offenders and equip them with market-related skills as part of their rehabilitation and preparation for successful reintegration back into our communities. In the 2023-2024 financial year, the department reported a revenue generation of 233 million that they've generated revenue out of the self-sufficiency programs. The committee encourages the department to further optimize operation at its production workshop to further improve on the self-sufficiency and sustainability on revenue generation. In other correctional centers, the department uses offender labor for some of the day-to-day maintenance and renovation of their facilities. For instance, in Kgoshi Mampuru, the department used offender labor to renovate, tile, and paint the office of the commissioner, including his house. For non-national offenders, at the end of March 2024, the department incarcerated 22,612 foreign national inmates, 690 of whom are serving life sentences. The department spends just under 500 per day per offender in all correctional facilities. And this stats as well, it's yet to be updated. It's a 2024 one, which we have received as the portfolio committee last year. We're yet to receive a new updated stats, so the numbers could be more. In October, the committee undertook an oversight visit in Gauteng. Those who were part of the oversight would have known, and those would have heard on radio stations, that we did a number of correctional facilities in Gauteng. Bavian Sport, Johannesburg Correctional Facility, which is formerly known as Sun City, Modape Correctional Facility. And amongst others, when we went to Bavian Sport, we had about, I think it's a juvenile center, yes, where around 525 male offenders who are incarcerated in that facility. Out of the 525, 400 are foreign nationals. So only 125 were South Africans, male offenders. It's a youth correctional facility. The committee also found 2,912 foreign national inmates in Modape Correctional Facility. While we were in Kgoshi Mampuru Correctional Facility, there were 2,394 foreign nationals. And in Johannesburg Correctional Facility, which is formerly known as Sun City, we have found 4,709 foreign national inmates. This was an oversight that we did last year in October, so the numbers could increase or decrease as of now. On issues of contraband flooding into correctional centers is a serious concern, particularly as the number of investigations and the number of officials disciplined does not correlate to one another. With the amount of contrabands found in each management areas or in facilities, for instance, in the Johannesburg management area, 1,393 cell phones were confiscated between July and September 2024, but only 48 formal disciplinary process or cases have been registered, 84 investigations conducted, and 25 suspensions being implemented. In Khosi Mampuru, 1,700 cell phones were confiscated as well. And they were found between April and September 2024. While in Lokop, 63 cell phones were found between May and July. Like I indicated, these are stats of last year, and these are stats that we found when we did our oversight visit in Gauteng last year in October. So the numbers based on the rates that the portfolio committee would have encouraged the department to continue with, so the numbers could add more in confiscated contrabands, or it might be less if there were stringent measures that have been put by the department to mitigate smuggling of contrabands. But we're yet to get an updated plan on the department on how they're going to mitigate smuggling of contrabands when we meet or pursue our program as the portfolio committee. We have a planned oversight as the portfolio committee on the 24th to the 28th of February. Our target for the oversight would be KwaZulu-Natal. I would not be able to give you like how Honorable Nqola would have given you the targets of which areas would go for oversight in KZN, which facilities we're going to meet. We do have a plan. I believe in unannounced visit. Hence, will not be able to disclose, because if we do disclose here, the department is going to prepare for us. And when it prepares for us, we're unable to get the raw of things that are currently happening in our facility. We did an unannounced visit last year in one of the centers in Gauteng, which is in Bosbeck. What we found was a good facility that is well run, but those would have not done an unannounced. For instance, Modape, there was a collapse of systems, which we had requested that there must be consequence management and more systems be put in that facility. We have a kitchen that was not running, so meaning Bosbeck facility, the kitchen was done in Modape's kitchen was non-functional. No one, it was bad in such an instance that it was closed down. So cooking process of inmates was done in Bosbeck. So Bosbeck facility will be the one that is responsible to make sure that they cook for inmates of Modape and ferry the food there. So we are yet to also go back and get a proper report regarding Bovian Sport Kitchen and Modape on how far the department is. This falls under infrastructural matters that the department is yet to appear before the portfolio committee and be able to take us through on all of those. Infrastructure is a challenge to all across department. It's not only the correctional service that has a problem with infrastructure, but we have encouraged the department that it must use offender labor to deal with day-to-day. And so far out of that, a lot of things are in progress because we can't be reliant on the Department of Public Works. It has not yet produced what we require in departments, and this is based on the Bavian Sport Kitchen. There has been a service provider appointed by Public Works, but upon receiving the kitchen on completion, it was a total different story. No one can be, even the health service will not allow you to be able to cook anyone's food in that kitchen. So therefore, we have encouraged the department to find other measures or find other ways to be able to deal with infrastructural problems or issues that emanate in correctional facilities outside being reliant to public works. So, as I indicated, the planned oversight visit will be between the 24th and the 28th of February. It will be in KZN, but facilities that are identified will not yet be disclosed until we have agreed which facilities will be doing unannounced and which ones will be doing the normal visit where the department equally knows. Until such time, the team that is led by Mava and Raja will communicate to all media houses on the ones that is not unannounced. On the unannounced ones, I don't know how we're going to work around it, but you will eventually know. But one of the reasons we're doing unannounced is that we need to get a real depth of what's happening in correctional facilities outside being reliant on reports that we get in the portfolio committee. And I want to reiterate this. The planned program of this year in the portfolio committee, it will try to get all plans, all action plans that the departments needs to adhere to, that they've not been doing. And there would be accountability to the portfolio committee as per seen as last year. We had encountered some few hiccups or issues last year with the minister refusing to take accountability to the portfolio committee. But we are putting our foot down this year that there will be accountability. And if matters needs to be escalated to the speaker and the president, we would do so as the portfolio committee. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson Ramolobeng. I did say that I'm going to call the chairpersons in no particular order, so you will see that we started with justice and constitutional development, which involved the courts where people go and argue their cases. And then we went to correctional services. And then now we go to the oversight over the institution that provides clients to the correctional services. The Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Police, Honorable Cameron.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure if we provide the clients or whether it's the courts that provide them. Unfortunately, in Stilfontein, with the one escapee, it seems that there's a client missing at the moment. Thank you for the, Tiger. Thank you for the opportunity to brief you today. I think there are many concerning things that have especially happened over the last few months, and parts of the South African Police Service actually feel slightly chaotic at the moment. So I think it's critical for us to have a briefing such as this. I'm going to start with the memorandum of the 31st of December that the Minister of Police, Minister Nqola, sent to the National Commissioner. Firstly, obviously the committee noted it. I think it's important to emphasize that we are concerned about certain kinds of documents that are just distributed all over the place, things that potentially should not be communicated that way, or should rather officially be made public. But nonetheless, the requests by the minister are noted. And while the closure of the political killing task team has been condemned, the under-resourcing of the South African Police Service must be stressed, and it must be addressed. The financial sustainability of various task teams, not only that one, and high-density operations must be reviewed. We saw recently, and I'm going to mention crime intelligence as an example in terms of informers, where, and we'll speak about other challenges regarding finances soon or now, but specifically with regards to informers' budget being decreased. Now, in a country where we want to build intelligence-led policing model, it's critical for us to make sure that those budgets and the allocation thereof is not only adequate, but properly administered. The Division of Crime Intelligence has been identified by the committee as a critical pillar of proactive policing. And it's clear that the Minister, or it seems that he understands the vital role that crime intelligence should play with regards to successful policing. While the committee does not fully agree with the moratorium placed on recruitment or questions certain motives behind it, we welcome the steps to review the division and believe it is very important. The recent revelation of the purchase of a 23 million rand hotel in Pretoria will be interrogated by the committee and the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence, as the procurement thereof, and specifically in terms of the procurement thereof, falls under the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, but other parts of CI, crime intelligence, is under the ambit of the Police Committee. And I must stress that we are extremely concerned about the constant faction fights within the crime intelligence environment. It feels a bit like a political chess match being played within the crime intelligence environment. And while they fight, South Africans are left vulnerable. And it's critical for us to emphasize that we will engage in robust sessions or discussions to scrutinize the chaos within that specific division and environment. Whether it is the National Commissioner, General Mosa Chabane, the Divisional Commissioner, General Khumalo, and all the other senior managers in that division. We will question them objectively, and we will go through the process as is needed. I must emphasize too that last year Parliament resolved that there should be a skills audit done in the senior management of the South African Police Service. And I think crime intelligence is a very good place to start with that, not only in terms of skills to get the theoretical part of the job done, but also general fitness to hold office. We welcome the dismissal of the previous head of crime intelligence in the Western Cape, and we applaud SAPS for handling the matter with the relevant urgency after the revoking of the dismissal last year. In terms of the reports of the disbanding of National Inspectorate, we've noted with concern reports that indicate that the South African Police Service intends to close the crucial Inspectorate Analysis Centre and Service Complaints Unit. Given the significant role that this unit plays in terms of accountability and oversight and service delivery within the South African Police Service, the committee views this development as potentially detrimental to the broader efforts aimed at strengthening governance and operational effectiveness of the South African Police Service. And I'd like to stand still there for a moment, but we get hundreds of complaints every single day in terms of service delivery, complaints that often fall outside of the scope of the committee itself. But we handled these because we know that other departments or other officers within the South African Police Service don't have the resources that they need. But we've come to a point now where we simply cannot handle the amount of complaints we often get. And then it becomes even more worrying that they would consider to close a critical division like this. To gain a comprehensive understanding of the rationale behind this proposed decision, the committee will summon the National Commissioner and the Minister of Police to provide a detailed explanation. We're also disappointed in the fact that it wasn't communicated to us in any way in any of the previous briefings we had at the end of 2024. The engagement will seek to clarify the motivation for the closure, the anticipated impact of oversight functions, and the measures that will be put in place to ensure continued accountability and transparency within SAP's operations. The committee is particularly concerned that such a decision could further weaken the already fragile accountability framework. Therefore, my comment about not having adequate resources. It potentially hinders the efforts to address public concerns and complaints, enhance service standards, and uphold the integrity of the police service. As oversight and monitoring are critical to building public trust and improve police efficiency, the committee remains committed to ensure that any changes made within SAPS do not compromise these objectives. The third point I'd like to discuss is consequence management within the South African Police Service. I believe the credibility of the South African Police Service has been dented by the inclination to harbor criminality accused individuals inside the South African Police Service. The Minister has revealed that 40 members of the South African Police Service are currently on suspension with pay for reasons including allegations of serious misconduct, corruption, theft, even murder. The delay in implementing consequence management within SAPS erodes trust in the South African Police Service and cannot continue unabated. The continued delay, and this is just a simple example of consequence management against the 8 VIP officers that belong to the protection detail of the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, on the N1 over a year ago, is a huge concern for the committee because they are still in service of the South African Police Service, and the solution thereof remains to be seen. Furthermore, the committee remains steadfast that rogue police officers must be removed by the South African Police Service. In terms of extortion, in line with the mandate conferred upon the committee by the National Assembly in 2024, the committee will intensify its oversight efforts over the executive to monitor the implementation of strategies aimed at curbing extortion-related activities. The key component of these efforts will include hosting a joint dialogue with Select Committee on Justice and Security, marking a significant step in fostering collaboration between the two houses of Parliament. This collective approach is expected to enhance oversight, improve accountability, and drive a more coordinated response to challenges posed by extortion. Furthermore, the committee plans to conduct oversight visits to KwaZulu-Natal and so to the Eastern Cape, provinces that have really, in particular, been affected by the scourge of extortion. Obviously, so too, as we've done with unannounced visits in certain areas in the Western Cape and Gauteng, we'll continue to do so, and obviously extortion will receive additional effort because of the way that it numbs communities throughout the country. These visits will provide an opportunity to engage directly with the affected communities, law enforcement agencies, and other stakeholders. South African Police Service and various stakeholders continue to implement strategies to combat extortion, but we are, although worried, whether these strategies are working, and in certain parts we have our doubts, other parts we have seen decreases, but we are concerned about the fact, and it's something that comes up very regularly in the committee, that we are constantly seeing a notion of just sending more uniform members and not targeting specific kingpins with an intelligence-driven policing strategy. We remain committed to work collaboratively with the relevant stakeholders to ensure that strategies are put in place to contribute to a safer and more secure environment for South Africans. The last 2 or 3 points: gang-related murders and mass killings we've seen over the months. The alarming increase in gang-related killings and mass murders in the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape underscores the critical shortcomings of the South African Police Service and specifically crime intelligence in those areas. We recently saw the incident in Nyanga, where from a Metro Police point of view and a law enforcement point of view, the police were warned about the potential threat of that incident. And it helped in terms of foster reaction, but very little seems to have been done in terms of being proactive to stop these things before they happen. And there are many more examples, and I can use the Cape Flats as a very fitting example where this could have been done. These violent incidents have indicated the urgent need to bolster the capacity and effectiveness of crime intelligence on ground level to make sure that we act proactively. The committee emphasizes the importance of the recently signed collaboration agreement with certain local governments throughout the country, which if effectively implemented can serve as powerful tools in the fight against crime. This morning, I was listening to a part of a book called Intelligence-Driven Policing by Ratcliffe, and one of the things he speaks of is the idea of a fusion center. And it's such a simple concept. You can look it up. It's a simple concept of different law enforcement bodies sharing certain information and even intelligence, ensuring that they do some kind of proactive operation. Unfortunately, that seems to be quite the vacuum at the moment. In addition, the committee remains steadfast for its call to increase funding for detective services, so to crime intelligence, and adequate resourcing for these units is critical to ensure that they've got the necessary tools, technology, and personnel to operate effectively. It's also important for us to mention we need to consider the reallocation of non-essential functions, such as certain VIP protection services, which currently consume a disproportionate share of the police budget without delivering meaningful value to the broader South African public. The committee will continue to engage with the relevant stakeholders to ensure that resource allocation within SAPS is optimized, transparent, and responsive to the current crime crisis that the country faces. Almost in conclusion, in terms of Stilfontein, illegal mining continues to pose a serious threat to the safety and security of people in South Africa, while also having a substantive negative impact on our economy. The recent Stilfontein incident has brought these concerns to the forefront. However, as the full details surrounding the event remain unclear, it would be premature to speculate on the circumstances. Nevertheless, preliminary reports suggest that SAPS should have anticipated all possible outcomes and developed a comprehensive contingency plan to address various scenarios effectively. Proactive intelligence gathering, strategic planning, and coordination with relevant stakeholders are essential to ensuring that such operations are conducted with precision and with minimal risk. It's imperative that all arrests of law enforcement actions are conducted within the framework of the law, adhering to the principles of minimum force, respect for life, and fundamental human rights. The committee firmly believes that the values of democratic policing, namely transparency, accountability, and respect for constitutional rights, must always be upheld. We'll continue to engage with the South African Police Service leadership to ensure full accountability within our scope regarding their operational decisions, adherence to legal frameworks, and to other ethical policing practices. In terms of our oversight visits, during the previous term, the committee conducted an oversight visit to the Philippi Police Training Academy, and we remain deeply concerned by the South African Police Service continued lethargy in addressing recommendations that were put forward. Despite clear directives, the lack of decisive action and prolonged delays in finalizing the investigation into corruption allegations are just simply unjustifiable. The committee is committed to holding the South African Police Service accountable and will persist in demanding answers and consequence management against any officers found to have engaged in wrongdoing at the academy. Ensuring accountability within SAPS training institutions is crucial to maintaining integrity and professionalism within the police service. Lastly, we're deeply troubled by these ongoing challenges, many of which I've now already mentioned, which significantly undermine SAPS's ability to combat crime effectively. Addressing these systemic issues is paramount to restoring confidence in law enforcement and ensuring that police stations function as the first line of defense against criminal activities. Moving forward, the committee will intensify its oversight efforts to ensure that SAPS takes urgent and measurable steps to improve service delivery at the station level and allocate resources effectively, produce tangible improvements in policing outcomes, and also to ensure that they understand that it's vital that constituency work feeds into the work that the committee and Parliament does as a whole. Lieutenant Colonel Peter Pretorius, Constable Mutlong, Constable Sipho Mohape, Constable Ayanda Moyikwa, and Constable Callan Andrews, and many other officers killed in the line of duty highlight the very worrying trend and challenge of crime against police officers. The committee reiterates that attacking a SAPS officer is a direct attack on the state, and that strategies must be implemented to protect SAPS members. In closing, the committee would like to extend heartfelt condolences to the families of SAPS members that lost their lives in the line of duty. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson Cameron, for that briefing on the issues of oversight over policing. The last but not the least, the Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs, Mr. Chabane.
Thank you, Mr. Mloto, and colleagues and the clergy and members of the media. I've also realized that some of members of Parliament are here to assist the chairpersons to respond to the questions. The Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs is responsible for the following institution: Home Affairs, the Border Management Authority, Independent Electoral Commission, and the Government Printing Works. We'll only highlight a few areas for the purpose of the engagement with the members of the media. I'm sure Honorable Ramolobeng has already indicated the number of foreign nationals that have been arrested or are residing in our institution over a period of time. And that is a demonstration of the work that the law enforcement agency has been conducting and also the inspectorate at Home Affairs to arrest those that are within the country illegally, but also those that are committing crimes or undermine the Constitution of the Republic. The BMA recently was established and became operational on the 1st of April 2023 in the 6th administration. The committee applauds the BMA for the efficient implementation of its festive seasons plan in ensuring seamless movement of people and goods since its establishment to date with limited resources that has been allocated. It is worth noting, given its responsibility to secure our borders, that the BMA is facing difficult financial constraints stemming from the entity not receiving full funding for its strategic objective. These financial constraints in a period of 6 administration has been highlighted to the Portfolio Committee, has been a cost containment measures introduced by the National Treasury, aimed at managing government spending and easing pressure on the constrained fiscus. During the department budget vote, members of the Portfolio Committee raised this concern on the underfunding of this institution and implored the Minister and the Commissioner to engage the National Treasury for more funding allocated in terms of to assist in the strategic objective that has been aligned. In line with this, the business case on the adequate funding model for BMA has been submitted to National Treasury. To augment these financial difficulties in the interim, the BMA has applied and received CARA funding to be used for purchase of specialized equipment that will enhance operation division in fulfilling the BMA mandate to the border law enforcement areas and ports of entry. Besides these human and financial challenges, the BMA in the period of its establishment recorded the following progress. It intercepted and direct deportation of over 410 individuals who had attempted to enter into our country. It intercepted over 300 cars destined to neighboring countries. Intercepted illicit cigarettes at the port of entry, and a seamless processing of travelers at the port of entry and queues that have been managed. This progress has been identified in particular at the Bait Bridge border gate and Libombo on the side of Mpumalanga. The work of the BMA has been demonstrated in the recent impasse at Libombo port of entry as a result of electoral matters relating to Mozambique, and we commend the sterling work of the collective team of officers led by Dr. Mashapata and other law enforcement agencies. Recently, the Portfolio Committee conducted an oversight on the side of the border to assess the challenges that are faced by the Border Management Authority as a result of the challenges that have been faced in Mozambique as a result of the outcome or contest of the electoral issue. So we commend the work that has been done. All law enforcement agencies grounded in that side of the border. The challenges in terms of the areas that we've identified as the Portfolio Committee realize that most of the arrests that have been conducted of the foreign nationals are housed at Lindela facility. The facility we conducted an oversight there. The issues of the conducive environment, and also have realized that in the last period of 6 administration, there were escape of foreign nationals due to lack of security measures in the management of that institution. Last week, there was also an uproar of the Malawans that have escaped in the Lindela because of the environment and also because of the lack of services from this Department of Home Affairs. We've engaged with the department in relation to putting measures in place to arrest the situation that has been exposed in Lindela. On the motion on the political party funding, following the public consultation on the motion required by the Section 24, subsection 1A of the Political Funding Act on the issues related to upper limits for donation received by political parties and the disclosure threshold, the committee resolved that the motion must be subjected to further study. Recall that the Electoral Act provided that we must amend the disclosure limit and the threshold. We've conducted a public hearing in the 6th administration, and subsequently, the Electoral Act was passed and signed off by the president. There are two issues that are emerging from that Electoral Act: is the changes of the formula for funding or allocation of political parties, which was changed to 90-10, and also the consideration for Parliament to review the threshold and the upper limits for donations of political parties and independent parties. We've called for the public hearing around that subject matter. We've received comments from the stakeholders, including political parties, their views in terms of the that have been expressed to increase the threshold or the donation, and their views also to reduce the threshold. The committee has not yet deliberated and take a decision around that matter. The committee took a decision to subject for a further study. We've requested the Parliamentary Budget Office and the National Treasury to investigate further and bring a comprehensive report to the Portfolio Committee, which is scheduled on the 4th of February 2025. That will take consideration, and members of the committee will then deliberate, and so that we bring a detailed, fact-based motion to the House, so that the House pass those issues that will be raised. On the report on the 2024 provincial and national elections, in the period of the outcomes of the elections, the IEC conduct what you call, or they bring the report to the Portfolio Committee, and the Portfolio Committee deliberate on the issues that are arising from that report, and you present the report to the to Parliament for consideration. You realize that we've not yet interacted with that report in this since the election was conducted in 2024 provincial and national elections. The reasoning that we were not able to receive that report is that the court challenges or the political parties or stakeholders that have approached the court contesting the outcome of the court, of the election, citing irregularities in terms of the facilitation or counting or the outcomes of those elections. We've interacted with the IEC. We've conducted 2 oversight, and I think we resolved that pending the court outcome, we're not able to receive a report because some of the issues that we briefed the Portfolio Committee in Parliament will be arising from the challenge. So we've agreed with the Commission, and also we've raised the matter with the Speaker that will in this period will not allow the IEC to present the report to the Portfolio Committee. We're further going to, we've also consulted with the Parliamentary Legal Services. Given the time period that we're facing now, we're approaching the 2026 local government election. We want to have a mechanism on how this matter can be managed so that the IEC, before they present a detailed plan for local government elections, this matter of the provincial and national elections has been presented before the committee. Obviously, there are some of the issues that were highlighted by members of the committee in relation to the facilitation of the election by the IEC. Though detailed report or the reasoning of the weaknesses that have been identified will be presented by the IEC to the committee, includes the voter management devices. You realize that in the facilitation of the elections, there are some of the VMDs which were not working because of network or reasons that have been will be briefed by the portfolio by the IEC. The training of staff is one of the areas that we're concerned. If we've experienced that most of the staff that we're facilitating in the VDs could not even assist to interpret the process of the legislation that entails the work of facilitating the election. So these are some of the areas that will able to engage with the IEC, which already have been raised by members of the portfolio committee, and they've raised that when we're conducting the oversight in the IEC. And also the possibility of managing queues as we conduct the elections. You know that now that the provisions allow the independent or individuals to participate in the provincial and national elections, and these are among the issues that we'll able to strengthen and get a brief from the IEC. On the electoral reform consultative panel, the Electoral Act provides for the establishment of the electoral panel, which Parliament has appointed credible citizen to assess the current electoral system and provide 3 options for Parliament to consider. The panel will hand over a report to the minister within a time frame allocated, and report will be subjected to the parliamentary process. We call all stakeholders and members of the public to participate in this important process. In other words, the appointment that has been, there's a team that has been appointed to conduct or assess the current electoral system that we're using, but also to get other modalities if there will be change of electoral system, the weaknesses and the strengths of this electoral system, and propose other electoral system that the Parliament may need to consider. Once that process has been concluded, they'll deposit the report to the minister, and the minister will brief the portfolio committee. And at that point, we'll also subject this process to the public consultation. And once we have done that, we'll be able to conclude on the possible electoral system, whether we maintain the status quo, or whether we consider other options. To the various parties that have also contributed to this process, we're closely monitoring this engagement, but hope that the team that has been established or appointed by the Parliament is capable to give Parliament a credible process or the outcome that they're engaged on. The time frame will possibly, before end of May, that report should have received to this Parliament. So we're calling stakeholders, including those that are here, to assist in contributing to this process. This year, they're going to start with the provincial public consultation, in hope that members of the public, including the media and other stakeholders, political parties, will assist us to enrich that question of the electoral system. There's a significant progress on the modernization of the Department of Home Affairs since the President announced during SONA in 2022, among others, to convert over 340 million paper-based South African civics record into an electronic format. That resulted in the creation of 10,000 jobs opportunities for youth who were trained in various aspects. The modernization process within the DHA remained a priority, and while great strides have been made, worrying instance corruption lingers in the application and issuing of documents of the department. In the 6th administration, the committee recommended for the establishment of the task team to investigate these challenges. The Luisi report exposed areas which contributed, including the work of syndicates who are working within and outside the department to sell documents or exchange documents with working closely with some of the officials within our institution. We commend the minister for continuing in this path initiated in the 6th administration of modernizing the DHA. You recall that in the 6th administration, the former minister Mtswaledi appointed a team that was led by the former Director General Lubisi to investigate the corrupt activities within the department, including the permitting, issuing of documents, selling of a document, exchanging of names, and that work was done credibly. There was the appointment of a multidisciplinary committee or task team that is now working with the law enforcement agency to follow up in all the issues that were identified by the Lubisi Commission. You may have observed in the period of time that there were many arrests of both officials, the citizens, and other syndicates that are working outside the country to weaken the status quo, undermine the constitution of the republic. The long queues at the points of service remain a huge concern for the committee. We've observed in the oversight we were conducting in the offices of Home Affairs that there are long queues and also the downtime. Sometimes you go to the Home Affairs offices, there's no services the whole day. Our people wake up in the morning at 5 o'clock to queue the whole day. There's no assistant of services. We applaud the department for creating mechanism, though there's still a long road to go in terms of interventions that may need to be employed to respond to these challenges that the committee has identified. The intervention of procurement of mobile trucks and securing kiosks is a sign of improvement to deliver service to our people. You recall before the provincial and national election somewhere, the president launched what you call a kiosks that will be distributed throughout the offices of Home Affairs in the country, the self-service machines, and also the increase of the mobile trucks that will be distributed to our rural areas. But that remains a critical concern to the portfolio committee. Linked to this is the issue of technology downtime as a result of unreliable service provider by SETA. All the department, as has been indicated, have challenges with the network of SETA. And all of us will agree as a portfolio committee. In fact, we've raised it with the Minister of Home Affairs, even in the 6th administration, that there must be possible exemption for security cluster in particular and Home Affairs with the services of SETA. There was an initiative at the level of cabinet when we briefed by the Minister of Home Affairs then, that there's a consideration to exempt the security cluster from the SETA so that we're able to have ensure that the system always runs smoothly in Home Affairs. There are other options that we've guided the Home Affairs to look on the SARS, the system that they've been using, that will be able to assist the smooth running of the portfolio, of the Department of Home Affairs. Lastly, or two on the bills that were going to remain this year that the portfolio committee is going to engage on. Obviously, we've received the department have tabled a few bills that we're considering, but we've now subjected them to the public comments. The one-stop border post bill, recall that there was a decision that was taken that we may need to mend our borderline throughout the country. So there's a bill that has been tabled before Parliament. We have not received a detailed brief from the portfolio committee, from the Home Affairs. We'll subject that one-stop border post bill for public comments earlier this year. At the same time, there's a process of, or there's an issue of interest. The Department of Home Affairs has invited interest for PPP for the construction of this one border post in all our port of entry. You recall that the refugee centers, we have 5 refugee centers in our country, in Pretoria, Eastern Cape, Durban, and Cape Town. So the intention is to relocate those refugee centers in the main and ground them in the space of the portal. It may take time, but this is a good initiative to respond to the issues that members of the community have raised. That I think will support the view that was raised earlier for the establishment of the Border Management Authority. The marriage bill that has been presented or tabled before the portfolio committee, a single marriage bill, we've started with the public hearing in Gauteng, and we're going to continue to have consultation throughout the provinces this year. The electoral panel report, as I've indicated, we're also going to subject it to the public comments, or public comments and consultation throughout the country. We must also indicate that the portfolio committee has conducted an oversight at the government printing works, one of the institutions that assists to print our documentation. Though we appreciate its improved services, there's weaknesses in terms of its governance. They've lost financial data in the past 3 financial years, and they could not reconstruct their system at the level of of governance. We have engaged with the Auditor General in terms of the health life of the government printing works. One of the issues that we've engaged with the labor is concern about the infrastructure that is being bought for over years, and there's a lot of money that has been spent, it has never been worked. The infrastructure within the department, corrupt activities that has been identified by members of the labor. We have now engaged with the minister and the deputy minister, Dr. Schreiber and Deputy Minister Njabulo Nzunza. In fact, the portfolio committee have instructed them to conduct a physical oversight at the government printing works, to meet with labor, meet with the executive, and meet with the staff and tour the entire facility so that they're able to brief the committee on the actions that must be taken to strengthen the government. This has been a concern of the portfolio committee, and we think that with that initiative, we'll be able to make sure that we strengthen the government printing works as an institution of Home Affairs. These are some of the issues that we thought we must bring before the portfolio committee. The last point, I think, Mr. Mloto, that we must raise is the issue of the porous borders, which I think we've accepted as the portfolio committee, that there are challenges, but I think when the Border Management Authority came into the space, there's significant shift in terms of managing our port of entry. And this is a collective responsibility of all of us to make sure that we assist this work of the Border Management Authority, including with the community on site. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson Chabane. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the presentations on the work priorities and the programs of the portfolio committees and peace and security cluster. We are going to give you an opportunity to interact with the chairpersons. And like we said, we are going to start with questions from members of the media, both in this physical venue and also on virtual. Those who are joining virtually, there is a parliamentary communication WhatsApp group that we all know. Deposit your questions there. If you are not on that group, the deposit on the chat function of the Zoom platform, those questions. Starting in the physical venue, just to indicate, like I said, we are starting with the members of the media. And then once we are done with the members of the media, so that we allow them to go and file. We don't keep them beyond what is necessary. And then we will then deal with the esteemed stakeholders. Thank you very much. I'm just going to, I know all your names, but I'm just going to give you numbers, and then before you fire a question, just indicate your name and the media company that you come from. So in the order that I will be giving you those numbers, you will be the first. 2, 3, 4. You will be the 5th. Are you a member of the media? Say. Okay. We are going to give stakeholders after we are done with the members of the media. So you were 4, Lindsay. Any other hand from the media? You will be the 5th. You are from the media, okay, right? Okay. Are there any questions on the virtual platform? I don't see anything on the WhatsApp group. So we are going to take those hands. And then I'm going to ask the honorable chairpersons when they respond to go to the podium. I'm the only one with the luxury to remain where I am because I don't need to be quoted by the media, so the microphones are there on the podium. In that order, please. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Moloto. To the chairperson of the Justice Committee, Mr. Nqola, just two things from my side. In September last year, the committee had an engagement with the former Justice Minister, Thembi Simelane. Did the committee met after that to finalize if their engagement with her? What was the outcome? As the committee, are you satisfied with her being removed from the Justice Committee to Housing? Because there were people who were saying that the president must fire her, but he did not. He did what he did. So as the committee, from your engagement with her at that time, are you satisfied with how the president handled the matter? Secondly, the committee had said at the time that it will obtain a legal opinion from Parliament on whether it can have access to the loan agreement between the minister and Gonda Wealth Solutions. What did you do that as the committee? What was the outcome of that? Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I know the chairpersons are capturing all these questions. And number two.
Thank you so much, Dennis Dalport from Netwerk 24. I've got a question for the Chair of Correctional Services as well as Police. My question to the Chair of Correctional Services, please can you just confirm the amount of beds available in the Correctional Services Department in our prisons and the amount of inmates in the system currently? My second question with regards to that is, you spoke about the overcrowding issues. Can you just elaborate more on where does these inmates sleep? Is it on the ground? Do they have mattresses? What is the food situation like? Is there basic human services to these inmates? To the Chair of Police, Mr. Cameron, you spoke about that N1 incident of the Deputy President's VIP protection unit. But as we know, there was another incident just a few days back where the Deputy President's protection unit had an alteration with a man from Khayelitsha while the ANC was having its January 8th celebrations here in Cape Town. Will the committee look into that incident as well? It seems like it's an ever ongoing situation now. And what are the steps that you would like to take against these, against his unit? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number three.
Good afternoon, Llewellyn Prince of Netwerk 24. My question is directed to the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs. Just in terms of the issue of the underfunding of the BMA, I just want to find out what is the committee planning to assist the Department of Home Affairs as well as the BMA in order for them to get more money to do their work, seeing that illegal immigration is one of the big crises in the country at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And number four.
Moloto, Lindsay Demplinger, Eyewitness News. To the Justice Portfolio Committee Chairperson, does the committee have a view on the Norton Rose Fulbright legal challenge against the legal sector BEE code? And then secondly, there's been a lot of reported dysfunction within the Legal Practice Council. Is that an organization that is within the sights of the Portfolio Committee in the coming year to intervene perhaps? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can she repeat the second question of the LPC? I didn't capture it properly.
There's been reports of the kinds of rulings that they make. That's a lot of question around the way it's functioning and the outcomes of some of the matters that it's handling. Is that something that interests the portfolio committee at all?
You mean misconduct matters? Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any further questions from the media before? Oh, you were fifth, sorry, and then you will be the sixth.
Good day, Crystal Audison, Financial Mail. Question to the Chair of Home Affairs and Police. Regarding just a follow-up question to Llewellyn, given that we have these widespread budget cuts across departments, how do you foresee that the BMA will get additional funding given the work that you had outlined? And then to the Police Chair, you have said now that we need a collective approach around extortion. What exactly do you mean? I mean, it was the big talking point in 2024. We see that it's still ongoing. So what kind of different approach are you suggesting that, you know, this year might bring forth? Thank you.
Yes, the last one is number 6.
Good morning, Chairpersons. Thank you, Jason Felix, News 24. I have one quick question to the Chair of the Police Portfolio Committee. Given your previous interactions with the previous Minister of Police, how would you rate the current Minister of Police's performance? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So those are the 6 hands. Any last taker? Okay, there is none. All right. Can I perhaps start with the Chairperson of Justice and Constitutional Development? I see you've got questions from SABC and EWN.
Thank you very much, Somlomo. The first question was highly anticipated, which revolves the matter that which the committee undertook relating to the former Minister of Justice, Minister Tendinga Dimeng. Of course, here in this chamber, we provided the first formal session for the minister to account not only to Parliament, but also to the nation on the matter involving or accusations that were circulating in the media relating to matters of VBS, Polokwane municipality and the staff. But the actual issue with us was whether there was a conflict as in terms of the National Prosecuting Authority Act. She exercises the final authority over the NPA. The NPA that we chair was undergoing prosecutions over VBS issues. So ours was just to establish whether there was a conflict of interest to that. As it relates to NPA, remember, the issue with the Polokwane arrangement was dealt with in a different platform. It was not within our competence. So indeed, remember, we are an oversight and accountability institution, not a law enforcement body. So ours was to ensure that the executive is accountable on its actions. Some of the issues that related to handling confidential information, we all will recall that a loan contract is between 2 parties involved. Financial statements or bank account statements are confidential issues relating to that particular individual. So hence we have solicited a legal opinion from the Parliament Legal Unit, and they did provide. And they provided it at the time when the minister was called by the president to make a report regarding this matter. And as when we're processing the matter and the minister was ultimately changed, but just a glimpse of actually what the legal opinion would have suggested to us was that we can handle the personal information of the minister. The the only information that relates to the accusation, but only in a form of a closed session if it's necessary. So as when we were trying to process that, the minister was changed to the Department of Human Settlements. Are we satisfied? That is not our job. Our job is not to get any satisfaction from any point of appointment, but we respect the constitutional espoused prerogative of the president to appoint any member of the cabinet or any deputy minister. And ours is to work with whomever has been appointed to be the minister or the deputy minister of the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. It's not our part whether to be happy or to be unhappy about it. Whoever is appointed, we work with that person. We ensure that on behalf of South Africans, that person is held accountable. The issue of the legal sector code, which has been something that has been on the pipeline for a very long time. I remember some of us were in the 6th Parliament. The 6th term of Parliament actually was expired without us having resolved the issue of the legal sector code. So we're very delighted when finally Minister Pakstow signed and approved the legal sector code, and we believe that it's a very potent instrument to ensure that we transform the legal profession in South Africa. But of course, that actually will step on the toes of those who are anti and against transformation in the country. Some of them will include big NPOs, big law firms, and everyone else who might have an interest on the matter. But our stand on the legal sector code is clear, as we did when we issued a statement that we support the legal sector code fully, without any reservations. And we are calling upon both the Department of Justice and the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition to go to court and fight fiercely to ensure that no one removes that code. For we believe that it is a code that will contribute immensely to matters relating to the transformation of the legal profession. The last issue is relating to the Legal Practice Council. Fortunately, we would have had a meeting with the Legal Practice Council, I think it was November 2024, for them to update the committee on behalf of Parliament on misconduct matters, because it was our belief that a lot of misconduct matters take very longer. Some of them, the media circulate that this person gave this a victim 50,000 when he received 15 million and all those things. So we had an obligation as Parliament to ensure that that body actually is accountable to the people of South Africa. So we did have that meeting. One, they have blamed the delays on misconduct matters. We are dealing with lawyers, we are dealing with legal practitioners. So it's people who are actually versed and understand the law. So what they will do, the day you start trying to process them, they will take the matters to court, this application. When they lose that application, they launch another application. So that's why sometimes they take more than 7 years to be processed fully, because even the LPC itself has to abide with what the law says. But specifically on matters relating to victims, we showed them, SIU reported to us previously before the LPC. So we showed them some of the victims, what they suffer from misconduct by legal practitioners. So they did explain in case by case. We can provide you with that a report if you would like it, case by case, on this is what is happening with this particular misconduct matter. But a number of them, it's either they are on suspensions or they are struck off the roll. Those who are involved. Those who have not yet reached that stage, it is only because that they are doing what we usually call Stalingrad approach. They are taking matters to court, taking LPC to court every now and then, so they delay matters. But we're confident that as we have been able to close ranks with the LPC, we'll be able to monitor their work properly and with close proximity. Then at that, we'll be able to ensure that they perform their duties efficiently. And those that which rob our people of their benefits, those victims who suffer from the misconduct by legal professionals are going to receive justice. We're going to ensure that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Ramolobeng, you've got much easier task. Your question, you've got only one question. You've got two. Did you add the additional one? Sorry, two.
Thank you so much. The first question was on confirmation on the number or inmate population of inmates in the country that we have. I would have reported here that it's the stats that would have received last year of 156 with a bed space of 105. The current one that we have received that we are yet to get a report in the portfolio committee to affirm this. So the current stat is 167,300 as sitting and a total bed space of 107,346. But this stat, it's yet to come through the portfolio committee for the portfolio committee to be finished for. The one that the portfolio committee is still sitting with, which was reported by the department led by the minister, it's still the one that I would have made an articulation of 156. This, we just got the stats through the department as you would have asked the question. So that's the first one. The second one, which I've heard you correctly, it was the situation of inmates and facilities in terms of food, in terms of the bed space, since there's overcrowding, where do they sleep, since the number of bed space and the number of total inmates, they don't speak to one another. What is the situation in that, if I've correctly captured you? As you would have gotten the stats now of 167 versus 107, it tells a story. But one thing I can assure you is that when we did an oversight visit to Goodwood, which is here, we found out that the department tried to mitigate in bringing 2 beds. They would then, I don't know how to explain this, but 2 beds will be turned into 3. So meaning in between, there will be, which is not correctly supposed to be done, but they will try to tie the 2 beds together so that then in that middle space, there is a mattress that gets to be put, someone else sleeps there. One of the issues that we found as well in Bavian Sport, which is the youth center or the male center that I've made an indication of, that was 525 inmates, population 400 being foreigners. We also found a situation where there were sponges were given to inmates. So if it's a cell that accommodates 2 people or 4 people, you'll find that, there's backbenchers, there's a down and the up one. So you'll find someone having their own sponge and mattress. That's how they're trying to mitigate. But we have requested as well as part of the first program of the portfolio committee, we have requested the department to come and brief the portfolio committee on how to mitigate the shortages of bed space vis-a-vis the total number, so that whatever inmates that are incarcerated in facilities, it must be done in the human rights condition, so that none of those are violated. Yes, they're inmates, but their human rights conditions must be upheld, and they don't find themselves in situation or in dire situations that are not conducive. Even me and you can't comprehend and live in. On issues of food, we had a case of Westville Correctional Facility, and I think it was sometime in December, where inmates would have made an indication to media houses that they're not receiving their 3 meals as supposed to, and some would have written letters of complaints to myself as the portfolio committee chair. I've referred the matter to the National Commissioner to attend to it. He did give a brief report after attending, but outside that, we have also requested Honorable Mwali, who stays in KZN, because if it was during recess, if he's able to attend to the matter in Westville, and Honorable Mwali was able to attend to the matter, and he did confirm that inmates were not receiving 3 meals as per they should. And based on that, he made a recommendation to the portfolio committee that we must then hold the department accountable and make sure that inmates do receive 3 meals as required by law. So part of the visit in KZN, the Westville Correctional Facility, will be amongst those that we go look into and find out why were inmates not receiving their meals as required. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Chairperson Cameron, I see you've got questions from Netwerk 24. Financial Mail has since left the room. I don't know whether you want to respond. And the News 24.
Dennis, just in terms of the VIP unit, obviously we'll continue following up. I think what's worrying about it is the fact that it's the Presidential Protection Services that constantly commits, or most of the times it seems to be them committing these offenses. What was quite positive was the way that IPID, as well as the MPA, handled the original case that happened in Joburg next to the N1. They were responsive, they assisted the victims, and so on and so forth. I think it links to what I said earlier, that the disciplinary process within SAPS is very faulty. And I don't think it's because the system can't work. I think it can. It just seems like there's no urgency to handle it. I mean, end of last year, the head of HR in the police said to me, "No, it takes long, but we're handling it." It's simply not good enough. I mean, these people blatantly assaulted, openly assaulted innocent people next to a road. We've heard all the nonsense stories they were, sharing in court. And despite that, there's just no action. They were suspended without pay somewhere at the end of last year. And since then, there's just no feedback whatsoever from SAP. So it's very frustrating. In terms of Khayelitsha, if the charges are laid by the member of the public or the victim, then obviously we've got something to follow up. In terms of the way they conducted themselves, we can also follow up and will follow up. I believe there was already written, I think last week or the week before, just after it happened, to the minister as well. I also think there's a problem in terms of how Presidential Protection Services, it's almost like they're a separate little police service. There's no accountability. It just seems that you can speak to the National Commissioner, but when it comes to something like Presidential Protection Services, they law onto their own. And if you speak to a lot of career cops, they feel embarrassed by it because you have to be very qualified to get into a unit like that. And they feel that it gives a competent unit a bad name. So in short, we'll follow up. Then in terms of the question that Crystal asked, but I think has seemingly left, but I'm still going to answer it. In terms of the connective or more joint approach, I think it's quite simple. In terms of a parliamentary focus area, the way that we'll take hands between the NCOP and the NA will make it much easier to bring the different spheres of government together when we take on some of these issues. It may take longer sometimes because obviously these are big bodies to shift, so it will take time. At the moment, and if we don't have some form of integration, and this is down to local level, as I said about crime intelligence earlier, it's exactly the same. The whole fusion center idea is critical because at the moment, I like to call it transactional policing. It's as though when an arrest is made and the problem is solved, that we don't go to the core of the issue. It's like Tiger that's missing now in Stilfontein. I mean, now everyone says he's the kingpin. He's not the kingpin. He cannot be the alone kingpin for that entire operation. If we had decent, in-depth crime intelligence and people with integrity leading that process, I'm sure we'd know so much more. Apart from the fact of someone like that being able to escape so easily, we need to go and look at why we don't have that depth to tackle the real kingpins. The question then leads to the role of the hawks. We often see, again, transactional policing, a reasonable level arrest being made. Hardly ever do we see a complete dismantling of an entire syndicate where we get to the root of the problem. The person actually involved with coordinating the entire gold smuggling syndicate across the border. That type of thing is something that just, it seems to be missing. And then just in terms of the integration or other level, it's almost a Scorpions kind of approach that's needed. The way that a prosecutor and a detective could work together is the way that we should approach some of these types of offenses. And then the last question in terms of rating the police minister, it's a very awkward, no, it's not that awkward. No, I think so far the minister has been very accessible. It's someone that we can easily get into contact with. I know that other members in the committee also say that they easily, make contact with the minister when they need support of any kind on that level, as well as the National Commissioner, and so to the deputy ministers. I think the big test is going to come with really cleaning house in SAPS. The skills audit that became a resolution of Parliament last year is something I believe that is critical, and it's going to be very interesting to see whether we really do see a proper cleanup of the senior ranks in SAPS, because we don't fix the leadership problem, we're not going to fix the situation on the ground. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Cameron. Honorable Chabane, I see you've got questions from Network 24 and also from the Financial Mail.
Thank you, Mr. Mloto, and thanks for the two questions in relation to the Border Management Authority. If you recall, in 2020, we conducted an oversight, joint oversight with the Portfolio Committee of Police and Defense in in Bedbridge. And one of the areas we've identified is the fencing, which was before the public that all those that are from outside the country utilized to pass. And that matter was handled or is handled by the public works. And if you go to most of the borderlines at Mananga and also at Libombo, you will notice that our fencing capacity or infrastructure capacity is dilapidated, and this require lot of or sufficient support or funding to enhance the strategic work of the Border Management Authority. That's why we've raised this matter as a portfolio committee, including the reports or the briefing that we've received from the former Minister, Dr. Nqola, and currently Minister Dr. Schreiber, and also the Commissioner, because it impedes on the strategic objective for what all of us, we think that the Border Management Authority needs to implement. So its mandate is going to be tempered if there's no more funding, including the staff complement and also the field guards in the stream of the borderline. So currently, Home Affairs Border Management Authority relies on the policy department that have transferred their staff both in the offices, functionaries, and also at the port of entry. So we have engaged the department, as I've indicated that we've advised the department to develop a business case, which they've drafted and submitted to the National Treasury, and the work of engagement is ongoing in relation to the issues that have been identified. We can't establish an institution like the Border Management Authority as a result of the porous borders, and members of the public have been raising, and we don't fund it to completely run and its function. We'll continuously say our borders are porous, as we've accepted, all of us, including the committee, so that we have a strategic way to mitigate some of the issues. If we can take a ride to Madimbo, in Limpopo, far away from Bedbridge, you realize there's a continuous illegal people that are crossing to the country. But we must appreciate now that there's significant work in progress, put in place plans that mitigate these issues that have been raised. We hope that the National Treasury will consider the issues that have been raised by the Border Management Authority and other security cluster department in relation to the law enforcement work that we need to do. I thought that is the only two issues that have been raised before us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. We are now going to, if there's any questions from the stakeholders, just per organization, if the questions have already been covered during the round that we provided to the media, you don't have to repeat the question. And also just to indicate that we are requesting the chairpersons also not to rush and leave so that you can interact with the chairpersons after this, because there is lunch next door. So we still have that opportunity to interact with the chairpersons. Let me just get one, starting with the remaining hand from the media, and then you will be the first, and then you will be the second. You'll be the third, and then you'll be the fourth, and then you will be the fifth, in that order. Or you'll be the sixth, yes. Seventh, okay. Just if you can, one question each, in that order, thank you very much. Because we still want you to interact with the chairpersons after this, as you are having lunch. Thank you very much. In that order. Just one.
Thanks, Moloto. Babalo from EWN. Just a follow-up question for Correctional Services Chairperson. You illustrated the numbers of prisoners and the ratio between South African and foreigner in your initial submission. I'm just checking, has it always been that way, Chairperson? Is it an anomaly at this point to have so many, foreign nationals in our prison system? And if it is, an anomaly or a problem, what exactly is being done about it, by DCS, and any collaboration with Home Affairs in processing, these prisoners? And I mean, I'm sure DCS must probably have a breakdown of numbers, but do you have an idea of the sorts of crimes being committed? I know we have a local criminality problem in the country, but I imagine it's even a bigger problem. Is there any idea of what the crimes are we dealing with these prisoners? Thanks.
Thank you. Number two. And number two.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Wendy Pakir, and I'm from Ubuntu Rural Women and Youth Movement. I've got 3 questions for 3 different chairs of the portfolio committees. And I thank you for this opportunity. So my first question is around the conviction rate. We are aware that the 72 conviction rate that Constitutional Development and Justice Chair was speaking about is only those that the state decide to prosecute. And we know that many cases fall through the cracks because of delays, because of lack of evidence, and so many things. I know of a case that took 3 years. The late Justice, late Rushan Kailawak, murdered by an ex-boyfriend. And the matter didn't go on trial after 3 years. They made a plea deal. And all the trauma that her family went through because of the delays in this matter. So I would really like to know, how is the portfolio committee going to make sure that those responsible at courts have a speedy response to these cases, where families don't suffer more? They already lost their loved ones, and then they have to sit through all these cases being postponed and postponed again. And my second question is to the Chair of the Correctional Services. I'm very much interested in the rehabilitation part because I know of many cases where offenders who are released on parole, they reoffend. And many of them part of murders, robberies, raping, and all of that. We see it in the newspapers. I mean, statistics speaks about hundreds of them reoffending. Serious crimes. I'm not talking about petty crimes. So what has been done about rehabilitation? How are these offenders rehabilitated? I mean, I personally don't have an issue for giving someone a second chance. But there's a problem here. The rights of the perpetrator cannot be more than that of the victim. Where you release on bail or on parole just like that, and you reoffend, and possibly go on parole again and reoffend. Something must be done about it. We cannot live in a country where we feel unsafe every day, where children are murdered, raped, little babies raped, where women are raped. That cannot be the status quo in our country. We cannot be a lawless country where there's been spit on the law and it's okay because your perpetrator have rights. What about the right to life? The right to a safe environment? And I get very emotional when I speak about these things because we are on the cold face of these cases every day, doing court support, supporting survivors, the families of these women being brutally murdered by their partners and often by people they know. So these questions are, of course, very important. And my last question is to the portfolio chair of police. What's been done about drugs and gangsterism? Because that's a huge area in our communities. We know the root causes that often, is the breeding ground for crime to happen. Not that that's an excuse for you to commit crime. A lot of us come from poverty, but we decided to do better. We felt there's another way out. But we see little children, 10 years old, 12 years old boys, being inducted into gangs, being using as drug mules. And that is a huge problem in our community. And we know SAPS officers have challenges. There are some of them that put their lives on the line, working very hard, facing threats every day. But we know there's also credibility issues with a lot of SAPS officers being implicated in bribes and being on payrolls and all these things. I want to know, and I know you spoke about, you need to sort out the leadership in order to make sure that the roots is firm. Yeah, but what is the plan? Yeah, thank you.
No, thank you very much. Can we please get questions?
Thank you, Chair. Bishop Templeton Mbegwa is my name. I'm the president of African Religious and Traditional Leaders Council. I'm covered to other portfolios, but my question will be directed to Home Affairs about the new marriage bill. We have been working with the department to develop this new system. Your minority religious groupings marriage, polyandry marriage, ukutwala. We regarded ukutwala as a crime. And now the challenge that we have, Chairperson, in Western Cape, we've got only one trainer in terms of the marriage licenses. Number two, the small churches and the minority religious groupings can't access that kind of training. Now, they approach us to do a bulk application in terms of them having training and access the marriage licenses. Until now, we are still unsuccessful. So what best can we do to help the struggling religious leaders to access the marriage licenses and the training? I thank you.
Thank you very much. So,
My name is Lawrence Jansis. I'm also part of the ALTC. My question was asked by number one. So same thing got to do with the juvenile prisoners, where 125 was South Africans and the rest was foreign national. To me, it's more the juveniles, and I also like to know, were they legal in the country or did they stay in this country? How did they end up becoming prisoners in juvenile correctional services? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the next one is what, number 5.
Yeah, just a quick one. Thank you very much to the chairperson. Mine is specifically, my name is Mbegezeli Benjamin, and I come from Judges Matter. My questions are for you, Mr. Nqola. They are related, and it has to do with the oversight responsibility of the Justice Committee. Number one is the committee planning to have a meeting with the Chief Justice and the heads of court? And if so, when is that meeting going to happen? The second one is, I'm sure Ms. Ramolobeng will also testify to this, that when the Office of the Chief Justice comes to present in Parliament, they only speak about the administrative function. So no one speaks about the judicial function and the performance of the court in relation to that responsibility. That was something that was a legacy of the 6th Parliament. My question is, what is the plan for the 7th Parliament regarding that issue? And then lastly, relates to the Judicial Service Commission. In November, the committee had a meeting with the Magistrates Commission where the committee exercised oversight over its disciplinary function. My question is, when is the committee going to do something similar for the Judicial Service Commission? Because that is required by law. Thank you.
Wonderful, short and sweet. I know that hand number 6 is going to want to outshine you as well.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Xola Nqola. I'm Deputy Chairperson of the Women and Gender Rights Forum of Parliament. I just wanted to ask the Chairperson of PC on Police regarding some of the reports that have been put out there by NGOs regarding serious delays and challenges when it comes to forensics and the collection of DNA samples from health facilities by police and the delay with the DNA analysis. So our question is basically, what is the committee planning to do in terms of oversight to ensure this matter is addressed? And then the second one is for the Chairperson on Correctional Services. It's more of a comment because you did speak to the contrabands, but there's also another emerging and serious issue that comes with that, because we've had cases where victims have reported that they get calls from inmates, from perpetrators that have been convicted as gender-based violence victims, getting threats and insults from convicted prisoners.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. The last one.
Hi, my name is Bradley Stein. I'm a security expert and a stakeholder within South Africa. My question is to the Chairman on Police Services. Does the Prisons Inspectorate Directorate share intelligence with the crime intelligence cluster after raids, for instance? You know, if they find cell phones, you were talking about all these cell phones that have been found in prison cells. A lot of data on those cell phones are actionable. A lot of these people that are spending term sentences are still running their crime activities from prison. Does that intelligence get shared? And my other run-on question to that, with regards to the foreign nationals that are in prison, why do we as South Africans and the taxpayers have to pay for these people? Surely if they've committed a crime, we can deport them. My other question then was to the Chairman of Police Portfolio Oversight Committee, Chairman Cameron. So in my opinion, factional fights within the most critical law enforcement and intelligence committees, community rather, cluster, The fights between Kumalo and Masimola, you know, we're at a critical stage within our country. Crime is a national security priority, and it needs to be dealt with in that way. Surely there's no time for leadership at that level to be involved in spats like this. If anything, all these different stakeholders within, you know, the intelligence community have to collaborate. And I think your fusion center is a fantastic initiative. A run-on question is, what does the future of effective law enforcement look like in South Africa? Does it adapt a similar model, for instance, similar to US law enforcement agencies, like the Sheriff's Department and the police departments? For instance, here in South Africa, we have SAPS and then we have Metro. Will Metro get the same powers and capabilities, investigative tools, resources? So yeah, because I've seen the frustration in the community, and it's frustrating. A security company vehicle overturned in Cape Town a few days ago. A firearm was stolen out of that vehicle. We tracked that person to Valhalla Park, where the firearm is apparently, and that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid our most vulnerable people, kids on the Cape Flats, getting taken out. This is, you know, it's not acceptable. My question is, the frustration from the law enforcement community is that unfortunately after Mr. Kinnear got assassinated, the capabilities with tracking down these criminals or suspects within real time is now become a massive hurdle to overcome. They can't, for instance, get pings on potential cell phone numbers, and they can't deploy and try and get that firearm off the street within the first 48 hours, which is crucial in order to fight crime. Sorry, my last question is for Chairman Cameron. Apparently the Hawks have been tasked to look into the data breach regarding the matric results. Does the Hawks and the law enforcement cluster actually have the software capability, intelligence capability software to scour the darknet so that we can figure out where those breaches are coming from and we can be proactive and make sure that doesn't happen again? Home Affairs Chair, on border management, question, why have we not received, why has your department not received the allocated budgets? And border management is very, very crucial to national security. You know, we can't have criminals breaking out of jails in foreign African countries and then coming into our country and further unfortunately terrorizing our communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all the questions. Honorable Chairpersons, if I can impress upon you that you take 3 minutes each to respond to the questions, please, because we are pressed against time. Like I said, there will be time to interact with the Chairpersons after this. 3 minutes?
No, I'll take 2.
All right, thank you very much.
It is true that there are matters that get delayed and go beyond the set time. Because remember, each and every matter has got its turnaround time. That depending on its merits and demerits, but we always set time that this matter is supposed to be concluded or finalized by this particular day. Some are given 90 days, some are given 60 days. But it is true that there are matters that go beyond the actual set time, and there are many contributing factors to that, including some of the matters, shortage of judicial officers, in some of the matters, shortage of legal aid, legal practitioners, You remember Section 35 of the Constitution obligates the state to provide legal services to a person who can't. Sometimes a shortage of prosecutors, sometimes an issue relating to court records. Because the court can proceed if the matter is not recorded. So, but the department has now taken to tender, I think, the court recording system, because they were doing a one year contract, which had its own problems. Some of them are issues that are even beyond the Justice Department. You speak about the High Court in Makanda. The issue really there is about water provision, which is in the function of the local municipality there. Hence, one of the reasons that the seat of the High Court Division in the Eastern Cape is moved from Makanda to Bisho. So there are many contributing factors, but our own stand is that matters must be finalized within the provisioned time, so that we even avoid case backlogs and stuff, because our belief is that justice must be done within the time frame that which it was meant to be done. The issue of an unsafe society, that we can't be a country that whose citizens live in fear, who feel unsafe, hence the collaboration amongst ourselves. The only one that was short here is the International Relations Portfolio Chair. We believe that even what we call the integrated justice system is going to help us all, so that we have got the same information with regarding to every individual. Because if you talk about illegal foreigners who commit crime in the country, that which Honorable Khomotso was talking about, it's an ecosystem. They dribble about Home Affairs there by the border, they enter the country, they commit crime, they get arrested by police, we take and prosecute them and sentence them, we take them to Correctional Services, they are there, they get a parole, they offend again, we must recharge them. So it's an ecosystem that requires all of us to have to play a cooperative role to ensure that our communities are safer. That's why we're saying the integrated justice system is not a justice department issue. So we must know if there is a Xola Nqola who is in prison, sentenced in prison. Police can go and look for Xola Nqola in the townships if we've got an integrated justice system where we share the same information about a particular individual. And by doing so, we'll be able to even evade these things of reoffending and stuff. The last issue relates to the judiciary. I brought judges matter. I brought my constitution with me here. Section 65 of the Constitution, subsection 1, subsection 2, subsection 3, speaks directly to what we're talking about, that the judiciary is only accountable to the law and the Constitution. No one must temper or impede the work of the judiciary. So we can't go beyond the administrative work of the Office of the Chief Justice to go make analysis of how have you arrived to make this judicial decision. But what we can do is to have the meeting you're talking about. We have it every year, where we call it a meeting with the judiciary on matters of mutual interest. So it's our mutual interest that justice must be served and disseminated to the people of South Africa. So that's why we always, every now and then, engage the judiciary. That's why that meeting is not even allowed to be published or to be live and stuff, because there are matters of the judiciary and their capacity to take judicial decisions that we always deal with. Because the Constitution here, if it still stands like this, it means unless you're calling for an amendment to Section 165 of the Constitution, but we always try to balance that. Remember, the OCJ was established in 2010 or 2012 as a national department. So that's what accounts to us through the Secretary General. Now, the Chief Justice, we can't call them, why did you decide this instead of this? Because we'll be micromanaging the judiciary. And we don't want that, because it will lead us to a lawless country. So that's why we have got that arrangement of a meeting with the judiciary, the heads of court, the heads of high court divisions, the chief magistrates, to have a meeting in one room where we discuss everything judiciary, where we're able to meet each other halfway. The last issue relates to OCJ. Relates to JSC. You are correct. We have had a meeting with the Magistrate Commission for a lot of things, including misconduct of magistrates and everything else. If you check the program that we published in the website of Parliament, JSC is there as part of the people who are going to bring the annual report, the performance and spending, and the forward funding proposals. But we had to postpone that meeting. We did not cancel. We postponed it for this year because there were still matters that had to be attended to, including the secretariat of the JSC and every related matter. But that meeting with the JSC was still going to hold. Thank you very much. I took 1 minute.
It was 2 minutes times 3 plus 1. Chairperson Ramolobeng. 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. When we greeted each other, it was morning, now it's afternoon. Thank you so much for the questions and those who would have made comments, not more of questions. Let me firstly emphasize on something that I should have when I was responding to a question about the food issue, the bed space, and the conditions of inmates and facilities. I just want to put something for all of us. When inmates are sentenced and incarcerated in correctional centers, I can tell you now, those who would have visited correctional facilities would know that no one would want to be in a correctional facility. You would not even wish for your own child or for your own family to be in any correctional facility. Not that the conditions inside are not okay, but how incarceration is not a conducive manner, because it's not an ideal space for one to be. The liberty and freedom you have being outside, you do not have it inside a correctional facility. So that's one thing we must understand, that yes, you are obliged, or everyone must live within the human rights. But me being able to have a freedom to move around as and when I please, you do not have it inside. So if you are incarcerated in a CMEX, there is a number of hours that you are obligated to have. If it's 20 hours inside, incarcerated in isolation alone, 3 hours or 4 hours of freedom of movement for exercise and other things. That's why you will find inmates in it. We did an oversight in Koshimampuru in a CMEX, where your Thabo Bester are, your notorious kingpins and so forth. If you go there and visit, they will complain themselves because of it's not nice to be incarcerated alone in a space for more than 20 hours, alone, speaking alone. No one wants that. So is it a good condition? It's something else, but it's something that needs to be done when someone has done wrong to society. And these are situations we find ourselves in. So I wanted to just put it there for all of us, Mr. Mothapo, without you taking my minutes. On foreigners, we don't have yet an updated stats on currently how many foreigners are incarcerated as in today on the 21st of January in correctional facilities. The stats that I've given is the one that was reported in the portfolio committee last year. I do not want to give you stats that I, myself, as the portfolio committee chair, will not be able to account for as received in the portfolio committee. So as and when we get that updated, our first portfolio committee meeting is on the 4th of February. As and when we get where the department and the executive will appear before the portfolio committee, I'll be able to furnish media houses and all stakeholders through the communications, the Parliament Communication Services on updated stats that we would have received in the portfolio committee, so that we're able equally to hold the executive and the department accountable. But if we get stats that are not properly brought, we are unable, because of they can also question, including the 167 that I would have given, that I solicited from the department. They can come and claim that it's not a figure that they've given to us because of it was not brought properly to us. But I had solicited that stats for us to give us a sense of the numbers that we're sitting with in correctional facilities. Is the situation normal? It's not. I joined Parliament in 2021, and I was lucky I joined the Portfolio Committee. I would have served in the Justice cluster in any way. I joined Correctional and Justice when they were clustered together. The amount of work of the Portfolio Committee of Justice would have overshadowed the work of Correctional. So then when I joined, we didn't spend much time on correctional matters. So I would say 20% was given to correctional and 80% because of the output of work that justice faces was given to justice. It's now as the Portfolio Committee as a standalone that we're able to zoom into all areas and issues of the correctional portfolio that faces the department, inclusive of the inmate population of foreign national. It was a shock for us with the numbers that we would have received in Gauteng when we did the oversight and unannounced. So there can be more. We don't know. But this is an issue that requires a collaboration between Home Affairs and the Department of Correctional Services, especially for those who would have been granted parole as foreign national. They need to be deported back to their countries. So this is a process between Correctional and Home Affairs. Before the department can release, Home Affairs must be able to do its process of deportation. With regards to juveniles, foreigners, it's a similar matter. Most of them, you found it's a robbery or it's being in the country illegally. So it's a robbery, it's being in the country illegally. We have not yet intercepted or interacted with a juvenile inmate in Pavian Sport that would have said he's in for murder or anything. It was only in Boksburg when we did an unannounced where we interacted with juveniles who would have committed very serious crimes. Some it's gang-related matters, some it's murder, some it's rape. They were between the ages of 19 to 25. I got emotional in that process because I have teenagers and they're boys and they're within those ages. So when one says I'm receiving a life sentence, that person is 21. You start to calculate by the time he gets a minimum detention, at what age? One says I'm 21, and I now stand to figure, besides me standing here as a portfolio committee chair, my mother, who raises boys. So it's one of those. Those are situations we find in correctional facilities. Come to what the portfolio committee chair of justice would have said. This does not require the department only. It's a societal issue. When people get parole and they are reintegrated back to the community, they reoffend. You have nothing to do with it. You can't control it. You can't contain it. When a person is incarcerated, does all the rehabilitation processes, does the skills development programs, sits there and have a good behavioral program, then when it comes to him or her reaching a minimum detention, would have gone all those steps. Psychiatric evaluation, constant meetings with social workers, criminologists taking part as well in the report. So you find that person when gets to be given a parole, immediately they're out 2 months or 3 months, they reoffend. Do they reoffend because of they were pretending inside to be able to go out? We don't know. But others, they raise an issue of economic issues. They're unable to get jobs, so they need to survive. Others that are dislocated from their families or they're isolated, their families do not want them back, then they have to survive. Then it makes them to reoffend. There's nothing we can do about it. Like Honorable Nqola has indicated, Department of Correctional Services is an end user of justice. You get arrested by the police, a case gets to be opened, you get the justice system to take its course. Whilst if you are not given bail, you are brought to the correctional to the correctional facility as a remand detainee. Once you are then sentenced, you are brought in the correctional service. Then correctional department becomes an end user in that process. You become the baby of the correctional facility once you are sentenced by the justice system. For how long it sentences you, it's up to the justice system. But for that period, until you reach your minimum detention, the Department of Correctional Service is liable for that person. And in that liability, you need then to give them their 3 meals as required by law. Do we need not to feed inmates? I don't know. I got to the system in 2021, I found that inmates are being fed. But do we need not to feed them? I don't think it's correct. Whether you are inside prison or you're outside, you must be allowed to live within the human rights condition of everyone. But theirs are limited, unlike ours. So I wanted to clarify that matter. I think I've spoken on the juvenile, I've spoken on the rehabilitation process. The smuggling of cell phones as contrabands in prisons, where you find inmates are calling victims of those who are, who are supposed to speak against them, being threatened and so forth. I would make a reference in this on the Lisuki matter. Does the department have control over it? It doesn't. Hence, as the portfolio committee, we've asked the department to formulate a strategy on how it's going to mitigate the smuggling of contrabands. And the smuggling of contrabands is not necessarily inmates only alone. It's also officials who are playing a part. It's officials who are smuggling all this contraband cell phones for inmates. For instance, you arrest Homoto. My bank balance is about 2-point-something million because of my illegal activities that I've been doing outside. I get inside the system. I exploit you, who's earning a mere 20,000, to say you do 1, 2, 3 for me, you have access to what I have. So it's greediness from officials and then being in the payroll systems of inmates. There are a lot of shenanigans and things that are happening in correctional facilities. I will not be able to take you through it, but I implore you and invite you to take part in the portfolio committee meetings. Portfolio committee meetings of correctional services are streamed and they sit here in Parliament and anyone can attend so that you get to understand the depth of issues that the department faces and what we're dealing with inside prisons. So the smuggling of cell phones is a huge matter, which is a serious concern, as we've isolated the matter as a standalone for the department to give us correct figures nationally. The figures I've been giving you were isolated to Gauteng only because it would have been an oversight that we have done last year in October. But we want national stats of how many across all 253 facilities on smuggling of contrabands. And this is not only on hits of who must be killed come from prisons and they're done outside. There's cell phone scams where you get a call, someone tells you, if you don't do this, you're going to be killed. Then out of panic, you send the money. Some are prison-related matters. Remember, correctional facilities are housing criminals, and some of them are dangerous criminals. They don't cease to operate when they're inside. They find a way to operate even when they are inside. And when they do find ways to operate when they're inside, then they get assisted by department officials for them to be able to implement their matters. So that's the situation. That's why we've called the department and the executive to come and give us a plan, because of we feel the complaints and the suspensions that the department is carrying does not speak to the number of smuggling of contrabands. And we said head must roll, consequence management must be put in place. Thank you so much.
Honorable Chair, I end up being captivated by the information and betraying my timekeeping obligations. Honorable Cameron.
Wendy, I'm going to start with your questions first, and we can definitely discuss it in more depth. My first concern, and it's a general comment, it's not directly related to your question, is that I think there's often an expectation in South Africa that the police needs to fix everything. You know, at the rate we were going at the moment, the police have to patrol spaza shops and they need a mining rescue unit. And it's getting to a point where the police's mandate is, I think it's getting blurred slightly. They also have to act as social workers sometimes, and this leads me to the question. I think the first part is, as the previous chairperson also said, there's a bigger societal issue, and I think we need to also ask, where are some of the other departments and the role that they play? Social development, for example, I think plays a critical role in a lot of the challenges that all four of these departments face. Almost all of the comments and questions made today would be somehow relevant to a social development discussion as well. And I think whether it's deliberate or not, I don't believe it is, but in their absence, I think it leaves a massive vacuum of questions for the role that they can actually play. And if you go and look in communities where gangsterism, for example, is rife, I was in Lentegere, Mitchells Plain last week again, where a lot of people have been shot over the last week. And I think Saturday, a lady that I know there, her grandson was shot in the hand. And if you just go and you visit the areas, the work that the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture and Social Development can play there is absolutely significant to get a lot of those kids off the streets. And so many of these children don't want to get involved. They are bullied into getting involved. And then also it looks very lucrative. If you don't have food on the table and someone says, hey, will you take this package for me 3 blocks away and I'll buy you a pair of new shoes. For someone that's never ever owned a pair of new shoes, that's a very lucrative option. So I don't have all the answers on it. I'm just saying there's a broader issue than simply a policing one. In terms of the police itself, I'm very critical of the management of the police in the Western Cape as one example regarding policing and around gangsterism. The anti-gang unit was formed at end of 2018, beginning 2019. Since then, they've never received new vehicles. It's physically impossible for that unit to operate the way they need to. They still don't have a proper budget. We question it month in, month out, and will continue to do so. But when you speak to those members, they all say, most of us haven't even received training, specific training for anti-gang unit functions. And that's the case with anti-gang unit across the country. So, you know, we need to question that specific part. That's something we fight for quite a bit. A lot of the police members from across the country also come and speak to members of the committee for us to raise some of these issues with the police. Good example, flying squad and anti-gang unit don't get proper scarce skills allowances, for example, or danger pay. But if you're a task force member, you get 21,000 Rand a month for danger allowance. And we can debate the risk and danger. That's besides the point. The point is that a flying squad member, anti-gang unit member, and many station members have a much higher risk of being confronted on a daily basis with significant danger. And it's important that they are also looked after. And again, I'm relating to the previous chair regarding correctional services. It becomes very similar to that, where local police are expected to tackle a national organized crime problem Now, if that criminal knows where your wife works or your husband works, they know where your kids go to school, your kids are likely in school together, the chances that you're going to act against that local organized crime kingpin is very, very small. And a good example of how it could work is the old Operation Neptune. About 2009, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was an operation to combat abalone poaching on parts of the coast. And it was really, really effective. And one of the main reasons, apart from technical skills and so on, was that the police were rotated constantly. They came from elsewhere. They had no link to any organized crime body on a local level. So they had no relationship or responsibility or any obligation to try and assist someone, help someone somewhere, somehow. They were completely isolated. They operated in an area for a while and then they were moved again and a new team would come in, which is again something that we can look at. In terms of the kingpins on gangsterism, and this is where other departments come in. What is SARS? And I'm not saying this is criticism, I'm asking the question. SARS, for example, what have they done to target certain gang kingpins? If the MPA, for example, are involved with a specific case and it is taking time, courts are full, etc., what has SARS done to make it difficult in terms of tax for these kingpins? I mean, in Cape Town itself, it is common knowledge that you see some of these gang bosses' kids driving around in magnificent vehicles. And then one asks, but how is government holding them accountable for the income that they are generating? Many questions around that too. I can go on for a while and we can talk about that, but I'm going to get a pen thrown at me if I do. Bradley, in terms of some of your questions and just a few comments, and again we can discuss it too. The way I think we're pushing for it and what the committee has discussed so much, that there must be more collaborative efforts. There's crime intelligence success on the one side, but also fault on the other that happened in Nyanga, clearly showed that if there is collaboration, not only can reaction be better, but likely proactive work can also be better. What often happens is on a political level, the discussions are held, agreements are signed. As soon as the work needs to be done, it seems as though certain heads of department, officials, and on both sides of the table seem to just be at loggerheads, and then we're back to square one again. And that's where I feel that not only should a discussion be held, if you don't want to work together, you should be fired. It's that simple. And people can differ from you about it, but we don't have the luxury of working with officials that aren't interested in actually serving the people. The last 2 or 3 ones, the Hawks, to be honest, sometimes I'm pleasantly surprised by success that they get, and then I wonder why it's so complicated to do the same in other places. Example, Philippi Training Academy, the corruption there is significant. There are many preliminary reports, but the Hawks, the head of the Hawks, General Labia, says, unfortunately, we don't have sufficient evidence to help us get 205s to study bank statements. And I said to myself, you're the most elite investigative unit in the country, and a basic corruption or fraud investigation like that is that complex. And we have this discussion and debate the whole time. But then on the other side, collaboration with the private sector and with limited capacity on the inside. They have had success with regards to digital matters or cyber matters. And that leads me to the cooperation with the private sector as well. And obviously the necessary checks and balances need to be in place. From my portfolio committee side, if you look at CIRA and the oversight they need to do over security companies, there are a lot of questions that need to be asked, and we have started zooming in on it quite a bit because, again, and it's easy now, we are in Cape Town, but if you look at the underworld in Cape Town, there are quite a few security companies that operate with known gangs. It's an easy way to legally obtain firearms, ammunition, etc. So those are the things we need to zoom in. But if you have proper partnerships and proper collaborative efforts, there's no reason why the Hawks, for example, need to struggle. And it doesn't need to be a permanent thing. Just get the job done for now. And then the last comment on that is just in terms of action against officials that aren't always, or officials that did things that they shouldn't do. We sometimes have challenges with unions as well. And sometimes, and we've, sometimes some of the unions come out with extremely positive comments and say, let's tackle this problem. And we do, we sort it out and it works well. And other times someone is represented and it actually slows down the process. The VIP 8, Paul Mashatile, is a perfect example of that, where the unions actually end up frustrating the process to the detriment of the people of the country. So I think there's introspection that needs to be done on that side as well. I think that was 4.5 minutes.
No, thank you very much. We are very terrified of the police, so I couldn't do anything about it. The last response, Honorable Chair Chabane.
No, thanks, Mr. Mloto. Already have questioned me to spend 1 minute. Mr. Stein, I think the Portfolio Committee agrees with your comment in relation to the underfunding of Border Management Authority. And I think it cut across the departments in terms of the money contribution. If you have listened to the Minister of Finance in his budget speech, indicated or articulated the cost measures containment, which also affected the work of the Border Management Authority. But we're confident that given the engagement we've held with the Minister and the Commissioner in terms of the business case model of the Border Management Authority, will receive or they will receive a positive response from the department. Secondly, Parliament has not yet considered the marriage bill. We currently have received the bill from the department that has been tabled before Parliament. We have subjected it to public comments. So there are views, including that you are raising the clergy in terms of the comments that must enhance this bill. We have started in Gauteng last year, late in December, and we'll be going throughout provinces to receive public or comments from members of the community, the clergy, traditional authorities, and all stakeholders that need to be involved. It's an important piece of legislation. Obviously, once we started last year, the views expressed in support of the bill, not in support of the bill, and raising some of the issues that undermines the cultural background of some of the society. So we'll able to comprehensively debate once all submissions have been made to the Portfolio Committee and bring before the Parliament to consider or not to consider. Mr. Mlot, I think this is a good opportunity because some of the issues enable members of the committee stakeholders to raise with us an opportunity to get a sense of the service delivery of the departments that were presiding over in the committee. And this matter that we've been raising of the license or training of marriage will immediately take it upon with the department. And I think we'll able to get a sense what are the challenges and what are the mechanisms can be employed to respond to that question within the framework of the law of the Republic. So Mr. Mlot will assist us to interact with the clergy. We have, if you recall that there's a white paper on citizenship, migration, and protection of refugee, which has been considered by Cabinet. And once the Cabinet has approved the bill and tabled before Parliament, will able to interact with that. That will respond to most of the issues that Home Affairs or the issues that have been raised, particularly in relation to correctional services and other members of the community. We will not, I think, firmly say that ourselves we must undermine the Constitution of the Republic by not acting within the provision, for not arresting foreign national that have entered the country illegally or that have committed crime in the country on the basis that we're using taxpayers as money. We're obligated to protect the Constitution and sovereignty of the Republic. So it's a cause for, it's an action were obligated to make sure that all citizens, including those that are outside, are coming into the country, were firm in terms of the to abide by the Constitution of the Republic. Once they've been arrested and the term of office or the term of arrest has been Honorable Chairperson Ramolobeng, she has released them from the Correctional Services. They're immediately deported to the country of origin. And that also has cost implication. And if you have realized in the previous statement that has been raised, that it costs the country to deport people who must go back to their country of origin that are not supposed to be in the country within the confine of the Republic. But we can confirm that there's progress in relation to the mechanism to engage with the neighboring countries in terms of assisting us when we deport our brothers and sisters who are not here in relation to the Constitution of the Republic. So I think that is work that is underway, that is engaged by Department of Home Affairs. I think those are the issues, Mr. Mloto, with your minutes that you've allocated. Thank you.
Now, Honorable Chabane did promise that his response will be as short as the Home Affairs queues. So thank you very much for living to that promise. Honorable Nqola, Honorable Ramolobeng, Honorable Cameron, Honorable Chabane, thank you very much for the informative presentations and the information, really educational content responses to our media colleagues and the stakeholders. Thank you very much for your efforts and preparations in continuously informing and educating and holding yourself accountable to the public in a manner that you are doing. It's really appreciated. I also want to recognize the honorable members of parliament that are present, and we apologize for not recognizing you from the onset. Thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you very much, members of the media, for your attendance, for the interaction. We thank you, our esteemed stakeholders. Thank you very much for your attendance and for the engagement. I would also like to thank the team from the Parliamentary Communication Services that are working tirelessly to organize and ensure that these weekly cluster briefings take place. They are the real kingpins of this weekly interactions. So thank you very much for the efforts that you are putting. I know that we always say that we don't want to praise the fish for swimming, but it's important that sometimes we recognize the work that you are doing. There is lunch that is served, now we will call it late lunch now, that is served next door. Please join the chairpersons there. And then the chairpersons, please just remain a little bit for a group picture as we depart the venue. Thank you very much. The press briefing is adjourned.